Today's guest is Jorge Aldrete. Jorge is the co-owner of Elite Financing Group and leader of the Lux Mortgage team. Don't worry though, we're not talking mortgages today. Jorge has an all-around awesome story, and I'm excited to share it with you today. Welcome to the podcast.
The biggest message for me that I want to get around is, how do you get better every day? That, it's like I told you when we were talking with you, it's the mindset part of it. It's explore yourself a little bit more, push yourself a little bit more. So I just love kind of that part of life, just because I've been able to grow and where I came from thinking that I was not worth much.
So the growing part is usually uncomfortable. Yeah. But then after you're like, okay, this is good. I'm liking this. You
can actually get things done.
Yeah. That's interesting. Yeah. So how do you better yourself? Tell me the wisdom.
I would, for me, it was more than anything, kind of dive myself more into what I love doing, and for one, mortgages, and then the mindset of being positive. I always like making people laugh. Yeah. To me, that's my biggest thing. So if I make people smile, laugh, that's kind of like one of my purposes in life. I feel like, and make people feel comfortable, you know, and make them feel like they're valuable, no matter where they're at in whatever stage of life they're in. Yeah. And I started reading a bunch of books, which I'm not a reader. I just have this, I can't sit still, and I started reading more about things to improve my mind. Okay. And I started implementing things and just taking one step at a time. Yeah. I started with that book, The Compound Effect,
Oh, yeah.
Which was, that was phenomenal for me to start with. So I recommend.
Are you reading something right now?
I bought a few books and I'm not reading any of them. But I was listening to Ninja Selling.
Oh, that's a great book. Yeah.
Yeah, I'm loving the last part. I was getting bored with the front part of the book, just because it doesn't relate much to me. It's kind of story for real estate agents. It was towards the end of it, chapter 26, 7, 28, when they starts talking about the activities and the list and this and that. And I was like, oh man, this is amazing, right? I started writing my notes of how to implement things. And so that's I always start kind of going into chapters that might catch my attention. And
you just go straight for the meat. Yeah, I'm funny because I usually want to do that, but then I'm like, no. Like there's a story. I have to actually go back and read. I don't know why I do that. Like, let's just get to the information and implement it. But that's a great book. We give it to all the new members of our team when they join that one.
Jenny is doing it with, she does the book club with agents. And with, I think it's women agents, right?
Yeah, it is women.
And that's been, I was the one, I was like, babe, this is a great book to talk with agents, and they're enjoying it.
Yeah, that's good. So, well, you started to touch on your history, and I wanted to talk story with you today.
Let's talk story. Hopefully it's not boring.
And it's not going to be boring, I'm pretty sure. Take us back to the beginning, Jorge.
Born and raised in Mexicali. Yeah. Mexicali is a border town with California.
So were you spending a lot of time in California growing up? Or
No, Mexico side, it is a big town, 1 million people.
That's a big town.
So it's a big town. It's below sea level. So it's like desert. So it's one of those towns that in the summer, it reaches 124 degrees. It is
brutal.
Hot. For as a city, it was gonna make what is that record book?
Guinness Book of World
Yes,
Records.
for the hottest city in the world at one point at 127. But I don't think it did. But my
so this
point
was
is,
your story.
that's my hometown.
It was just hot.
That's my hometown. That's the summers.
My childhood. I just remember being hot.
Yeah. So I'm born and raised there, and then at 13. My dad asked me if I wanted to go to Tucson, Arizona, to a tennis academy. I started, I was a decent tennis player at that time. I wasn't that great, but I had talent. And so I guess they saw that in me. I went to live with the tennis coach and his family.
Okay. So you're almost like an exchange student in a way.
Basically. Yeah. That's what it was. And, I was going, it was 8th grade at the time when I went. And there were 3 other 17-year-olds living in the house. So we all lived in the same room. Yeah. And, bunk beds. And they were seniors. Uh-huh.
And you're in 8th grade.
I'm in 8th grade, man. So, but they were fantastic. They were great, because I started, was good enough to compete with them at that age in the academy. And then all of a sudden, my talents started exploding and became one of the best tennis players in Mexico at the age of 14 in nationals. And just kind of went through those teenage years, being one of the top tennis players in the country. For tennis.
Yeah.
So I graduated from Tucson and ended up going, from there. The biggest thing, my dad had this vision that he just kind of wanted to give us an opportunity in the U.S. To get an education and hopefully kind of escape, that life of being comfortable. I think Mexicans in general and people in general, we tend to just get comfortable.
Yeah.
You're just satisfied, like this is what is life and this is okay.
Yeah. So your dad really encouraged you, like, no, you got to grow. And I see there's a lot of immigrants that come here and that they really prioritize like education and opportunities for their kids. Absolutely. In the States.
Yeah. But this time around, he just let me go by myself. So there's no parents coming with me.
That's impressive.
So that was
a lot of trust.
Thing. There was. And the tennis coach and his wife, I love him to death, right? I mean, they're still to this point. I mean, we'll stay in touch, not as much as I would like, but it was 30 years ago, right?
Yeah.
And so, but they live in Mexico and, just to me, they were so important because it kind of became like my parents away from home. And
for sure.
They took care of me and my, just kind of my needs as a child. I thought, but my biggest focus was tennis. So I just, woke up.
Do you still play tennis now as an adult?
No. I had a full hip replacement, and not that stopped me from, because I wasn't playing even before that. But I was playing racquetball. And that's how it just tore up completely, and I just couldn't continue moving around like I used to.
Okay.
But now tennis, I don't even watch it anymore, very little.
Wow. But that was part of your life story. And somehow you made it from Tucson to Texas.
I did. It's college, just tennis. Okay. I got a scholarship to go to University of Idaho. And I did that for 2 years there. And then my cousin lives here in Dallas. And he was the one that talked to the Baylor coach and said, hey, you need to look at my cousin, bring him up here to go play for Baylor. Baylor was an upcoming tennis team. And I visited Waco and, just kind of fell in love with the program itself, not the town, but the program.
Waco's probably changed a lot.
It looks amazing. It looks a lot better right now, but when I first got there, the university is beautiful, always has been. Facilities were not that great when I went there, but now they're, just first class.
Oh, wow.
So anyways, so my cousin is the one that, put in the word. Coach, flew me from Moscow, Idaho to Waco, Texas, if you can believe it, and fell in love with the program and decided to move up here and had an amazing year. My last year of eligibility playing there, met Jenny, and fell in love with her about a year, almost a year after that. We were friends at the beginning, and then we started dating, and then after that I finished school, played a year professional, or tried. I would say I tried to play professional. The traveling is a lot and it's expensive.
Yeah.
So I just decided, I was like, man, I'm like, I got a beautiful woman waiting for me in Waco, Texas, and I can start working and build a life. Yeah. So I had my rackets and started to work.
Okay. And is that you? Did you go straight into mortgage first?
No, I went back and I waited tables. Even though I had my degree at the time, I needed to figure out what I wanted to do. I started waiting tables initially. From there, I became a sales guy, selling cars. Okay. For about 6 months. And then I found a position as a manager trainee for Washington Mutual Finance back in the day. And they had this program that they trained you to become a manager for one of the ranches. And Edgar, my best friend, he was my manager. So he's the one, and that's where we first met. And this guy was put together at the age of, he must have been 26. I was 24 at the time, and just kind of seeing that kind of professionalism in a young guy. And I was kind of looked up to him and realized I had to step up my game in the business world because I had no idea anything about business. And so we became very close. He trained me to be a great manager, and I took off. I think it was like within 10 months I was a manager and moved to Nacogdoches, Texas. Oh, yeah. So I started paying my dues. Nacogdoches, then Houston, then ended up in Austin.
Okay.
That's where Jenny's from. Jenny was born and raised in Austin.
So she persuaded you to go back to
we almost
Austin?
moved to San Diego, California. And the only reason and it was to pursue the mortgage world in 2004. And the only reason we went to Austin is got a job offer, to move there and with a credit union in the lending department. And so I decided to just be close to her family. We had a 1-year-old at the time. Okay. So we're like, you know what, instead of going to San Diego, which would have been great for me because my family was only an hour and a half away. And I haven't been, I haven't lived at home since 13, right? Yeah. Pretty much. So it was one of those decisions that we made, and it was the best decision that we made because I started in the mortgage industry in 2004 as just pure originating mortgages by itself. And
so what does that mean when you say originating mortgages by itself? Like you were working with customers, like helping with their application.
So before that, even when I was a manager for Washington Mutual, I was still originating loans, on the retail side of it. And so, but we were doing auto loans, mortgage loans, personal loans. Yeah, all customer lending. And then I really loved doing the mortgage side of things. That always intrigued me. And talking to people that family members that were in the mortgage industry, and they were doing great. Back in those days, I guess those guys were doing
2007.
So they were doing. I mean, you're talking about people that were doing $600,000-$700,000 in the mortgage industry, and that for me was like, man, I 2004. I am like, I don't plan on getting there, but I just wanted to make hopefully 100 or 80 grand, and so but they told me it's like, hey, you go into the first year, you'll probably make 40 grand. Second year, you'll probably be at 70. Third year, you'll be at 100 plus if you do everything right.
So it kind of gave you your pathway.
It gave me my pathway. But it got me excited to just say, hey, you know what? That's all I want to do. I want to do mortgages. So I gave it a shot. I started mortgages in October of 2004, just solely focused on
almost 20 years later, you're still doing mortgages in a much different way. But
yeah, and I enjoy it every single time. I do, like, I enjoy working with the clients, putting them into a home or refinancing them or cashing out, whatever it is that they're doing. For me, numbers and clients are just that excites me, right?
Yeah.
I mean, it's just one of those things to provide be of service. I'm a giver in life, so to me, that's kind of giving what I know and put people in a better financial position.
Yeah, it is crazy that the generational wealth that's created from real estate.
It is.
I see it on the closing disclosures when they sell, and I'm always like, oh, wow. I was like,
yeah, man. Yeah, I think that's, for me, it was an eye-opener because I'm not a stocks guy. I just never got into it. And I wish I would have had that education beforehand, but my dad didn't know any different either, right? I mean, he just worked his ass off in life, and and just kind of like what he made, he kind of spent very little savings. And then when I met Jenny, her dad was the other way, right? He made good money, and then he did invest. And so, no debt from both people, right? But they kind of managed their money different. So you start learning from what they're doing. And for me, real estate just became the natural path because I started studying it. I had the patience to study it. And like I said, I hate, not that I hate reading, but it's hard for me to really kind of get myself into reading. Yeah. And so, but when it's something that is mortgages or
when there's
real
dollar
estate,
sign in front of it, I can read this.
Yeah. I guess so.
I can read disclosure.
Yes, anything that has to do with numbers, real estate, like generate wealth through the real estate world, it just intrigued me.
Yeah.
Very much so. Like instead of trying to learn stocks or day trading or whatever else is out there, crypto, like I was just scared to death to invest.
Well, I'm still not convinced about crypto. Yeah. I mean, a lot of people always razz me about it, but I'm just like, I don't know. Like, I get it conceptually. Yeah. I'm just like,
yeah. Jenny always told me. I would say Jenny told me, it's like, stay with what you do best.
What you know.
And and I've tried to kind of start something else. Kind of get intrigued about a different industry, and she's like, stop. Like, you do great in the mortgages and the real estate side. Right, just do your thing. And so it's been good for us.
Yeah. So at some point you went from being like a loan officer to now being a partner in a mortgage company.
Correct.
How did that come about?
Well, I think it had to do with, always working hard and putting numbers. I think, when you're one of the top producers in a company, or you're consistent and your reputation is good, in the industry, I would think outside the box. I would, share ideas, whatever the case is, and became friends with the people that own the company. Even though I kind of worked for different companies at one point, one of those two owners that I had worked for in 2010 through 2012 reached out in 2014 and said, "Hey, we want you back." And I told them, it's like, I can't go back unless I'm an owner, right? I mean, unless I'm a partner of the company. They were ready, because I had asked. I was the top producer for their company from those years. And I asked for ownership. I was like, "Hey, I want to be part of the leadership, right?" I mean, I just knew I wanted to be there,
Was this like a long shot where you're like, "Oh, it's not happening, I'm staying here," or you kind of knew, like, if I ask, it's going to happen?
No, I think that you have to ask to know.
Yeah.
I don't lose anything. Yeah. So, but I didn't want to have to say, "Okay, see you guys later. I'm going to start my own mortgage company." I really liked them. And so I didn't want to start something new. So when they said no, I was like, okay, so it's time to look at, starting my own broker company. And somebody else that I knew in the industry wanted to get out from where she was at. And so we both started the company. It didn't last long. 2012 was a tough year for mortgage brokers. I think where wholesale lenders were taking 3 to 4 weeks to underwrite files, while mortgage bankers were underwriting in 2 to 3 days, right? So I always said, I'm never going to the mortgage banking world. Like they have a bigger margins and all this stuff, unless I really have to. Well, I was pretty unhappy, even though it was the biggest year of my life to that point. Through 2012, I was the unhappiest I've ever been in the industry because I was so stressed. I was losing relationships with agents, and that was just kind of hard to take. So I went to mortgage banking for 2 years, basically January of 2013 through November of 14. And I learned some good things from there. And that's when, I continue to be a good producer. That led me back to these guys to say, "Hey, we want you back, but this time as a partner." So,
nice.
I just appreciate that they opened that door for me, that they respected me that much, and believed they knew a lot of people in the industry, in the mortgage world, that they could have chosen, close friends of theirs, that they could have chosen to be partners. And somehow or another
and that's where you're at today.
And that's where I'm at today.
Nice. In between episodes, stay up to date on all things home and lifestyle with my weekly newsletter, Into the Weekend with Matt, where I share the latest real estate updates, new videos from our team, and advice for both buyers and sellers alike. To sign up, go to hastingsre.com/ITW. That's HAISTINGSRE.com/ITW. So one of the things I wanted to chat with you about, because your mortgage company and your life for the longest time was in Austin. And then recently you guys decided to make the move up here to the Dallas area.
We did, yeah.
Great. That sounds like sarcastic great.
No, it's been awesome.
Been great. What inspired that move?
I knew that, I think that the Austin market is very small, for one. That mortgage world is very small, and but we were doing well there, and I wanted to expand. Here in Dallas, we have our closest friends and one of my closest cousins. Okay. That I love hanging out with both of them, right? And so that compared to, we invested heavily into Broken Bow, Oklahoma, for a few years, and we were going to Broken Bow for a while. It's 7 hours from Austin, right? Yeah. It's 6.5 to 7 hours. And when you drive with my kids, it's like 8 hours, right? It's like they want to stop every time. And
where do they want to stop? I mean, there's not a lot of places on the way.
Restroom and eat, and they were just growing, so they're always hungry or got to go to the restroom, and so annoying. Yeah. So you got your 10-hour trip to Broken Bow. Yes, I mean, so we knew that moving up to Dallas was okay. We're going to have good social life with, we haven't lived with our closest friends since Waco days, right?
Wow.
And I haven't lived in the same city as my cousin forever. So it was, it was a great move for that. And then knowing that Broken Bow was going to be our investments were going to be 3.5 hours away. Our daughter was either going to Texas Tech or University of Arkansas. So we knew we were going to be closer for her if she wanted to drive in or we wanted to go up, and so it was just a lot of little things that happened that we felt that was going to be the right move. I just was hoping that for the boys that stayed with us, it was going to be a good move for them as well. And so when we first moved and they started going to school,
So if your daughter was about to go to college, then your boys were around high school age.
Yeah, middle school and high school.
Yeah. And so how has that been? Because it's tough for kids to move in high school.
Our high schooler had a tough time, but he's had a tough time with school for a long time. And, he has. He's got high functioning autism. He's got severe ADHD, right? And he's an amazing kid that doesn't like school, right? And so it's been hard for him to focus. And so, easy target to, I would say, to get bullied, so he kind of experienced that kind of stuff. Thank goodness that he was able to defend himself, Funny story is, I had my share of interactions with cops, because of him here in South.
Like, welcome to the neighborhood.
Yeah. And so, but it was overall though, it was good where, we took him out of school for him and he finished high school through GED.
Oh, cool.
The non-traditional way in our world, but it was phenomenal. It opened our eyes to something that we didn't even think that
there's so many possibilities now too. The school system is, I used to be heavily invested emotionally into education, but I don't think it in the current arrangement, like when we went to college, it was different than it is now.
Yeah, it did.
There's so many more, just opportunity everywhere now.
Yeah, and
the school system. Well, I will not get on my soapbox. So what were you unsure of when you moved up here? Because I don't hear a lot of people that want to move from Austin to Dallas, except maybe when they have a job transfer.
Yeah, I think for me, it was just, I knew that the change was going to be easy enough.
Yeah. Well, you're a positive person too, so.
That is one, and I knew we were going to be around people we loved, right? And so that was a no-brainer. Exactly.
Yeah.
When you're going to be hanging out with, our closest friends every weekend, and doing business with them too, right? It was just easier move in that part. And it became the social life that we really weren't having in Austin. It was we had a honeymoon here for a year and a half of just hanging out every weekend and, just having fun and stuff that we hadn't done. And
so nice.
So it was really nice.
Yeah. Yeah, it's interesting. When I think about people coming here to North Texas, I think people always have it's not just North Texas, but Texas in general. I think they have preconceived notions or they're uneasy about what's it going to be like. And Austin is different than Dallas for sure.
Absolutely.
I mean, and just like Houston's different from Austin too. What surprises have you had up here?
None as of yet.
None?
I was used to the distances of driving. The distances of driving. We were used to in Austin because the traffic had gotten pretty bad.
Even worse there, isn't it?
It got pretty bad, right? Because there's only just a few roads that matter, and so everybody's on them. So here it's easier to travel from place to place, and I wanted to be in an area that was between Fort Worth and Dallas, and my wife being heavy in education herself, it was okay, schools are very important. So where are we going to go in South Lake? Was where we
South
ended
Lake
up landing.
Great.
Yeah, where we ended up landing in that area, and we have loved it. Made some good friends there, and people are great. I think the preconceived notion that you were talking about must have been from us thinking that Dallas was very uppity up and the $30,000 millionaire that we heard
exist here.
20 years ago, right?
But in South Lake, they're real millionaires.
they're very comfortable in their skin, yes, I would say.
I'd say yeah, I think the pace in South Lake is a little more relaxed too than maybe here in Plano or in Dallas, where people it feels a little more urban and people seem a little more hurried. Have you noticed that coming?
I noticed that. Well, what I noticed that mainly is when we moved away from the Austin into the outs, in the nicer neighborhood, I would say in Driftwood, that people were more comfortable in their skin at a higher level, right? Like people are not there to show off or do any of that stuff. Everybody's kind of more like, hey, go about their life. And that is nicer. Yeah. And it's like, if you hit it off, you hit it off. It's not on what do you got that I want, you know? And
interesting.
But it's not, even here, I grew up, man, in Mexico. So to me, I don't even pay attention to if you got money or don't have money. I don't care.
Yeah.
Like if you're a good person and we hit it off, you're going to be my friend. You know what I'm saying? It doesn't matter. And so I've always, it doesn't matter to me where.
That's what I've always told my team. I was like, we don't have any minimum price points, but we do have like a no asshole policy. Like if they're a jerk, we're just not working with them. But if they're good people, they could be buying a small condo or $1 million house. It doesn't matter.
I agree. That's what people tell me. It's like they think I'm either too busy or I don't want to work with people that want to buy a $200,000 house. I'm like, man, we're all in this.
Sometimes
deal.
those stories are more fun too because it's a bigger like impact to their life trajectory.
Yeah. Absolutely.
Yeah. Hotspots. Are there places you've come to really like up here?
Yes. I fell in love with Moxie's in South Lake.
Okay.
That was like the place
right there,
to go
in South Lake Town Square.
It was the place to just go, and the vibe was great, and just to de-stress and go with the friends and my wife.
I've never been there, but I know right where it is.
It's so much fun. You're going to have to come with us because it's great, man.
Yeah.
I haven't been there since we moved to Westlake. I've been there once, but only 3 miles away, and I don't go as much. But it's just one of those things that we used to go there every Thursday with our friends, or Jenny and I would go on a day, like a quick date or lunch or whatever the case was. And so Moxie's was a great place to hang out with, and then. My cousin introduced me. He's a foodie, big guy that he lives in Richardson, but he just goes to eat places everywhere. He loves good food, right?
Okay.
So D. Lincoln off of the Star. I don't know if you've been. If you haven't, we need to go.
I know I haven't been.
Okay. That's another place. Like
that's right. That's right here. That's our backyard over here.
That place to me has great service, great vibe.
D. Lincoln?
Amazing food. Amazing. Huh. Like I make a mean steak and they beat me at it
every time. Okay.
No, it is incredible.
Okay.
No, it's incredible, man. It's a fun place to go. The wait staff knows us, the manager knows us, and so
nice.
It's kind of like where you get just a fun experience of just being there and you're loved on while you're eating. So it's really cool.
Yeah.
And I love to eat.
As you can see, I skip many meals myself. Yeah, I tried it, but it doesn't work. Now, what do you feel like the entrepreneurship environment is like up here?
Amazing, I believe. I guess because we are surrounded a little bit more by it, and the kind of like the areas.
That's true. Where you're at, right? You're around a lot of entrepreneurs,
and so. But I think it's well. I don't want to say that it's more because there's more people here than there are in Austin,
True.
right?
There's just a lot of people here.
But it's cool to have met so many people, especially in the South Lake and Westlake area, that their mind is out there about accomplishing
business
big things,
mindsets. Yes. Yeah, wanting a lot out of life.
I love learning from people, like what they've done, their stories, what they've encountered, what they've overcome, and so I try to ask as many questions as I can just to grasp, or just to get a little bit of knowledge from them.
I always one of the cool things about this industry is meeting all kinds of different people. And so hearing their stories, and everybody's got a story. Awesome. Some people have really impressive, like you, really impressive stories that you can learn and soak up and learn, everybody's got lessons that we can take for ourselves.
Absolutely.
Yeah. So no, this environment up here is certainly different than Austin.
It is.
But overall positive. And
I have enjoyed it. I've enjoyed the move. I've enjoyed the people we met, who we surround with self. I'm a I would say very picky about who I, let in.
Well, that's probably wise.
And it is, and it's just always been just because I wanted to be genuine, right? Mm-hmm. I mean, I just, like I said, I don't care if somebody has something that some people may look at to, hey, I want to get closer with that individual so I can see what I can get out of it. I'm like, don't care.
I've seen that with some of my affluent friends, how they have to be sort of screen almost a little bit the people that let into their life, because certain people are wanting to be around them, not just because of who they are. And that's
it's just, what can I get out of the relationship, right?
And I really feel for that, for people who have that.
Yeah, and I like it. You met Jenny, and you've seen, like, for us, is genuine relationships, right? And if they're business relationships, genuine business relationships. Right. Like, I actually care about y'all succeeding, and I care about being part of your success. And if we can be part of it, great. And if we can't be part of it, that's great. We'll cheer you on, because at the end of the day, is everybody has their path, and you got to share for people that are accomplishing great things and that are improving themselves.
Yeah. Well, speaking of great things, what are your 2023, like, what are the next great things you have in mind for your life? Personal, professional, family? It could be anything.
Well, for one, it's to lose weight like everybody, like everyone else.
Yes,
that started. That it's a big goal that I start with every year. But I would say professional goals have been, to break 100 million in personal production. Right? We got close to it.
Is that hard to do in the mortgage industry?
I believe so.
I like in real estate, it's pretty.
I believe so, because I haven't hit it yet.
Okay, then it's definitely hard.
Very hard. But we got to 93.
Oh, wow.
And so we were very, very close.
Right on the edge.
And it was exciting year and stuff. But then we dropped like 40% last year, right? In business, but it was still exciting, because the company still, I have to manage a company as well as produce. And the biggest thing for me has been to grow personally and grow as a company. And so no matter how tough the market is, it is. How, I mean, you get pulled in many different directions. And sometimes you can't just focus on what you really want to do.
We were talking about that before the show. Like, there's like all these things that can pull a person.
A lot of responsibilities. Running a company, it's a ton. There's, your plate is full.
Yeah.
Every day. That's how you start the day. And you have to kind of weed through the day just to make sure you can get to, talk to agents, be in the podcast, with you. Right. Just, make time for everything but you still have to, I still have to get back to work and make sure that I do everything that I have to get done. Absolutely. Yeah.
It's tricky. So you have a team then, like inside of your brokerage.
Yes. We created, for me to be able to accomplish things, and the things that I learned was creating systems, and creating systems, for me was get people involved that are great at other things that I'm not that great at, because I need to focus on relationships, right? That's where I feel the most comfortable at, and build relationships with clients, with realtors. Jenny's doing the same thing. And so we just needed to build a team that can support the rest of the work, from applications to pre-quals to contract to closings, calls, updates, you name it. And so we did that, and it's kind of building a little mini company within the
inside the company, right? Which is what we're doing at Compass too. It's like having our team inside of it. It's
which
an interesting dynamic.
I
never thought about this until real estate, and now I'm seeing another, in mortgage and other industries too, where people kind of build their own team inside of a bigger platform, if you will, that allows them to build it.
And it was great to know that, because, being in the industry for 17, 18 years, and I just never I never invested in myself. And so I was always just a one-man show. And all of a sudden, I went to an event in 2019, in August of 2019.
Before the world changed.
But it taught me enough to make it happen, to make the change, to believe in myself that I could do bigger things. Because you're always this, a spectator, however you say it. Correct me. You have to correct my pronunciation, because Jenny makes sure. Spectator.
A spectator for other people's greatness.
Yes, right? It's like I've been I was 15 to 22 million in production for years, and you're stuck there. And it's still a great life. For me, it was a phenomenal life, because, like I said, if I made 60 grand at one point, I thought I made it, when I had come from Mexico.
But the standards sort of change, right?
Well, and so, but even when you're at 15 to 20 million, you're like, okay, you're making good money. It's better than so I can stay here forever and be the happiest guy in the world. And then you see all these top producers that are doing 40, 50, 150 million. And I was like, man, those guys are just in a whole different league of their own. That's what God meant for them, and that is fantastic. And again, to me, I'm like, this is my path, my life, and I know how to be happy with my stuff, right?
And then you meet them.
And no, then I met the coaching, like the coaching world.
Yeah.
And that's where I was like, all right, I can be one of those guys. Like, I can produce like them. And they made me believe.
Yeah.
And once I started implementing, like Jenny and I are good about, we get ideas and boom, let's implement them.
I've noticed
like,
that about,
we're good about that stuff, and don't waste time. Don't think. I don't overanalyze. I'll make the mistakes and I'll learn, right? I mean, most people do. And that's the thing. It's like, hey, we'll just deal with it. You got to keep pressing the pedal. Right. And you just, make that engine explode and then see where it exploded and fix it and do it and run it and run it. Yeah.
Put the pedal back on the gas.
Absolutely. Right. And so that's the one thing that coaching helped us with. And it changed our world, and it changed my thinking just to believe that I can accomplish a lot more, but then I can pass it on to others that they can believe in themselves to accomplish.
Yeah, it's because like this ripple effect where like, oh, I'm improving, and now I can serve these other people, and they can improve, and it just kind of goes.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's super cool.
Yeah, that's what I enjoy doing. It's just for others to see that they're made for more. Yeah, they got more inside of them.
People always can highly disappoint us, but they can also just blow our minds with how much potential they have and how giving and loving they can be.
I agree.
It's 2023. It's a very weird year, I think. I don't know. Do you agree? In the mortgage world is super weird.
Started 8 months ago.
Okay. So
9 months.
Almost a year ago. Yeah. So it wasn't that weird for us 9 months ago on the agent side. It's just interesting.
It's been an interesting world.
Yes. And in the world, not just our industry. There are questions. I do want to ask you some mortgage questions because people ask me, when are rates going down?
Oh, man, tomorrow. No, so the Fed's meeting tomorrow, right? And so, but the thought, the word, and I would say the word on the street is that, the end of third quarter or fourth quarter, they may come down, or if not, then beginning of next year, right? So, I've never cared
about the rates, but buyers get wrapped up around it.
They do,
and they ask us. And I think I was talking about this with our last guest. Buyers are like afraid of something in the future. They're not really sure. But the rates feel high, especially when their friend bought last year for half the rate.
Correct.
And so they're like, don't want to make a decision, but ultimately they're probably better off making a decision and then moving forward because they can always refinance later or make adjustments. But
I think we just never experienced what we did last year, right? I mean, we went from 3% to 8%.
Yeah.
I mean, I've been in it 20 years. What's the highest
rate you've seen in 20 years?
I mean, back in the day, I used to do in subprime at 12-13%. So, and we used to do home equity loans back then, but that was, those were with people that had low credit scores, right? So,
and they were just happy to get the money.
Yeah, they
get into a house.
They were consolidating debt that was credit card debt that was at 26-30% back then. So for them, they're paying less, absolutely, and it's tax, it's a tax deduction for that interest as well. But last year was 8% or so. I think that was the highest. Maybe I went to 7.875 one time.
I haven't really seen anybody that high.
Yeah, I mean, but that was mainly, and I think it was mainly for like an investment. I mean, like an investment property, primary residence. Costly. I stayed around 7.25. I think 7.5. No later, no more than that. Yeah. Well, yes and no, right? But I think once rates came back to in the sixes and they stayed there for a little bit, people started going like, okay, like this is becoming the new norm for now. Yeah. And then getting educated by you, by me, in the industry, right? The mortgage and real estate professionals that, hey, this is okay. I mean, we've been at 5.5%, 6.5% before. I mean, this is normal, right? I mean, this is really the norm. It's in the fives is fantastic rates for us,
we might
right?
Stay here. That's what I wonder about. Like maybe we just sort of stay stable like this.
I think that if the moment that the rates, I believe, go again into the mid fives to low fives, there's going to be another frenzy in the real estate world.
This is what I worry about because these buyers that say, hey, we're going to wait until rates go down. And I'm like, everybody else who's doing the same thing is going to jump back in, and it's just going to go bonkers.
That's exactly, and investors are going to jump back in.
Right, because they have their real cheap line of credit and cash and all these other things.
And that's what I tell people. It's like, if you want a house, you got to get in now because you don't have any competition. There's no competition at this point. And once rates come down, I'm seeing not real competition when the investors are kind of like holding off.
True.
So the moment the rates are in the 5s and investors are seeing that, they're going to be, they're holding on to cash right now.
Tons of cash. There's so much cash.
There is a lot of cash. So they're going to miss out.
Crazy.
It's going to be another 2020, 2021.
It's supply and demand. That's the end of the problem, right? At the end of the day, it all comes back to supply and demand, and there's not a lot of supply.
What's the inventory right now? 90 days? 100 maybe?
Oh, no.
Not even?
Like in Plano, where we office, there's a month of supply. 30 days.
That is insane.
And the trouble is Plano's pretty good because we don't have a lot of new construction, but if you go north to McKinney or Frisco, up to a third of the inventory isn't even built yet. So you're like, oh yeah, there's a month of supply, but not really. Because it's not even built. So move-in ready houses are really.
So what about the surrounding area around here?
I mean, in DFW, it's like two months.
That's that's across nothing.
But we're a great metro area, and again, all real estate's local,
but that's nothing, right?
No.
I mean, and those are with rates being higher.
Yeah, so you've been in the industry a while. You recall in 2007, 2008, when there was 8, 9, 10 months of supply?
Yeah.
People were still buying and selling houses.
Yeah, those were my best years at the time.
Oh, really?
Yeah, but not, I guess.
Post-crash,
well, 2008, 2009, 2010, I had great years, but it was mainly for me on this side of the world was not too many purchases. It was more refis. I did a lot of refinances.
Yeah.
I've always been
great
about
that.
The database. Yeah, that's the cool thing on our end, right? Is that when certain things happen, if for example, if 2022 would have had decent rates in the 4.5, 5.5, there would have been a lot more refinances and cash outs than they were because there's so much equity.
Tons of equity.
So much equity. Nobody wants to touch that when they have a 3.25%, 3%.
This is the challenge right now for I think why we might have prolonged supply shortage is sellers who are sitting on a 2.5%, 3%, 30-year mortgage.
Where do they go?
Yeah, if they don't have a high motivation to move, they just stay in place.
Yeah.
And then all the buyers that are eager to buy and life changes, moving to Texas, whatever, are still clamoring over a handful of houses that are, great houses that are for sale.
I agree.
And then the prices just keep going up because of supply and demand. So I think
that's
a nationwide problem, but I think it's pretty exaggerated here where people still want to come to Texas.
Yeah. And like you said, I think people are going to be hesitant to, have been hesitant to sell because during COVID, more people stayed home. They actually saw the little things that their house needed. They upgraded their house when before they would have said, hey, we want a nicer home.
They made their house how they like it. Yeah. So a lot of people love their home. I have heard, though, that people who bought during COVID, particularly relocated places, they settled because there were so few homes. They just wanted to get something. And that those people are more than likely, something like 8 or 9 out of 10 people are they settled on some things about their house that they may be wanting to move because of that.
Yeah, that's
people used to be take it or leave it around pools, and now I think post COVID, people are really into the backyard, into the pool. They will pay big bucks for that.
Yes. Well, they realize if another COVID happens, they're going to be stuck and they're going to like their house. We got to have the entertainment. To get their energy out. Yes.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
That's for sure. So, what advice do you give to home buyers, or would you more broadly give to a home buyer?
I think it's for me to understand their story, what they're trying to accomplish, so that I can give them the right guidance, right? If today is the best time to buy, I would say yes, for sure. If you haven't bought a house, in a while and you've been searching or you stayed on the sidelines, for the last few years, is buy the house, and enjoy it, right? Build wealth. That's one of the biggest things. Not that you can access it per se, but you can one day when you sell and buy another.
Yeah, or you can refinance.
You can refinance, cash out, right? But find a place. A lot more people I'm seeing that I want to hear their story about what it is that they're trying to accomplish, right? What their family looks like. And so you hear them out, and then you kind of, our job is to sell and to put them into a home. But the reality is, when you listen to them and you can understand and overcome those objectives that they have or the fears. For me, it's always been kind of guiding them to overcome their fears. That's the reality, right? It's everybody's afraid to make that commitment, and how am I going to afford this house? But man, there's benefits to it, and yes, there's some liabilities to it. Sure. But I mean, the benefits outweigh the happiness and memories with your kids growing up there outweighs everything else. Then you have to move from place to place to place to rent or whatever.
Yeah, and so just kind of getting clear on their goals, both lifestyle and financially, is probably
absolutely
what I'm hearing for a buyer. Like, hey, know what you want.
Know what you want.
I think that's really where people go wrong.
And make the choice quicker.
Yeah.
Because, some people are, like we talk about, they overanalyze things. I'm like, let me think for you. Let's put it on the table. Let's make this call right now.
Yeah. We keep revisiting this every 2 months. Like, let's just make this decision now.
Just make it. My brother used to tell me, it's like, man, I don't like how you talk to clients and how you kind of almost guide them. And this is the beginning of my career. He worked under me for about a couple years. And I was like, man, the problem is sometimes people, they're afraid to make that choice, but then they make it, and they're so happy.
Yeah,
they're always thanking me. They still call me, right? I mean, years and years later, because they were so grateful for it. Because I don't give advice to put them in a bad spot,
right?
So, and that's our responsibility,
for sure.
So that changes everything.
Yeah. One more mortgage question, because this is related to the rates being low on existing inventory, and I've had a number of clients ask about this or want to do something. Assumable loans. Like, if I were a buyer, could I go assume your loan that's like 2 or 3%?
Under a VA loan and FHA loan, those are true assumable loans. Okay. And they have to work with that certain government loans. They have to work with the mortgage servicer that carries that loan. And what the buyer needs to realize is that they have to come with the equity.
Yeah.
Which, if they sell their house, if they do have a house in today's world, they have equity, and they can go and have another 2.5%, 3% interest rate somewhere else. On a conventional loan or jumbo loan, or there are assumption loans that but they stay under the seller's name. It doesn't change.
So it's a little more specialty product.
So it's a little bit more. You're still more responsible, right? That's what I did with one of my mortgages, right? One of my homes, I sold it, and the buyer had to put the equity in order to finance the amount that I was financing.
Yeah, because you need to get your total cash out.
Absolutely.
So you get your equity out.
And then he took over, and he pays me the mortgage. I pay it. I'm still responsible. I have it on auto pay.
Yeah.
And so it's, I contacted an attorney to put those documents together legally and close that a title company. So it was one of those things that, it's doable. He got a 3.25% interest rate.
Yeah. It just feels like a fantasy to me. Maybe I'm too cynical. For the buyer that's like, I want to go assume this seller's loan.
Yeah.
It
happens, just not
possible.
Often.
Yeah.
And I wish I know the details just to give that kind of advice, but because it's something that we don't serve.
Do it. Yeah. I don't typically have this conversation with sellers when we're listing. Most of them have a conventional loan. They're moving on to the next thing. They're ready to go. But buyers, it's the feeling of lack, like, hey, we missed out. Let's see if we can try to get in on it. But like you said, if they don't have that equity, out of luck.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And they'll be in that same boat if they don't buy again.
True. Yeah, that's a great point. Yeah.
Even with the higher rates, the rates are going to come down sooner or later.
And then you'll just refinance. I always think this is fascinating about real estate, and like with investors too. People can build this real estate portfolio and then refinance and never sell it, just refinance it, get their cash out, and go buy something else or go live on it for retirement or whatever else while the tenants pay the mortgage.
Absolutely.
So there's a lot of like clever ways in this business that
to make money.
I agree. And people be creative. And I think truly wealthy people never sell. I think they just keep buying assets, maybe their businesses or whatever else, but they'll finance them and get their money out and to go on to the next thing.
Yeah. To me, real estate, it is such a wonderful avenue of wealth that everyone should explore.
Yeah.
And a lot of people think
you make me want to buy something, all right? I'm like, let's go. Let's buy another house. Let's do it.
Yes.
Investment properties. Yes. So what are your plans for the rest of 2023? Any summer plans?
We're bringing the boat. We had the boat at a lake house, and we're bringing it to Grapevine to enjoy the lake over here, so we can really enjoy it more often.
Yeah.
I think trying to get away sometimes becomes a little tough, but when you are here in town and you can just escape that weekend, and so we're going to enjoy the lake this summer here.
What do you guys like to do on the lake?
Tubing. Kids love to tube. Yeah. And we're going to make sure this time around we get a Sea-Doo, a jet ski.
Yeah.
We love those. We enjoy. The kids love that stuff, and and probably just take one trip.
Yeah.
We're for us, summers are, and for you, the busiest.
Yeah.
I mean, it's crazy. So for me to take a week off or anything like that is just, I stress out.
Yeah, I love skiing, which works out really well for this industry. So, not as much is happening in the winter. So it's like I can take a week off here and there, and it's less impactful than taking a week off in June.
Yeah, that is true.
I might try it, but we'll see. We'll certainly.
It's tough. I mean, without a doubt, the stress is high.
Yeah, I think for people moving to Texas, the lake life is something that a lot of people may not think about, because there's a big subculture about people going to the lake on weekends or having lake houses and boating, and of course it's hot too, so it's like nice to be on the water. I have fond memories. I grew up in California, and I have fond memories though of being on the lake, and I don't think people water ski anymore. We water skied, but I think that's old fashioned now. I think
I wasn't a lake guy.
I think they do. What's the board that the people do behind the boat? Wakeboarding. Yeah. I think that's the new thing. I don't think people are water skiing at the same level they were. But your kids will have fond memories they'll remember from being.
Yeah, the lake is huge. The water always make kids happy. For me, it's like I told you, it stresses me out having my kids on the lake. But Jenny drives. I am on high alert for those kids to make sure. I am the lifeguard. But we enjoy the lake a lot, right? And it's been a great addition to our life. I was never a lake guy. Okay. Jenny, I don't think
you were by the ocean growing up.
But I was never an ocean guy. I was a pool guy. I mean, I enjoyed the pool. I enjoy the what is it called? The jumping board, or whatever you call that.
Diving board.
Oh,
yeah, okay.
I enjoyed that, and as a kid, and so, but lake, no, I can't see under. I can't see clear water. I'm stressed out.
So this is the thing about Texas. The lakes aren't like they are in California where I grew up. Like sometimes if it's not deep, you can see straight to the bottom, like crystal clear water. Whereas here, I'm not saying the water's dirty. It's that the soil is well, yeah, but it's not like polluted. Yeah, it's just the soil has finer, so it gets like. Yeah,
it's
just
very
one of those
dark.
Things. Yeah, it's just brownish sometimes, and people will drive the boats and stir up the soil, and it's not quite the same.
No. Well, I think lake life is fun for people to get into it.
Yeah. Okay. So your recommend. That's on your recommend.
That is huge, especially
that, and then happy hours at Moxie's.
Happy hours at Moxie's. It's a good time. Come and see me.
Yeah, I always like to. Yeah, you'll be there.
I want to go. I want to go more often.
That's funny. So I always like to ask people, what do you wish I would have asked you?
What do you wish?
What should we talk about that we didn't cover? It's a tough question.
That is a tough question. I think man. For me, I am big on learn from others, right? Learn to be happy.
Yeah.
I mean, you want to tell me what it's, if you ask me, Jorge, what's the biggest advice you give your kids? And to me, I would tell you is I literally preach to them, be happy with who you are from a young age. With what God gives you from the beginning, because you learn to be happy with who you are, then you can start, making others happy. I said, if you're struggling with who you are, figure it out, or just be grateful, because life is an adventure.
Yeah. I love that philosophy.
It truly is. And you just have to want to explore what you're capable of.
Yeah.
And that to me has been my biggest, and it's, I preach and I live, right? It's be happy no matter the stresses of life. I mean, I've taken some big shots in life, and I've had some very highs, and some very lows, right? Yeah. And it's okay. You know, they're phases. You learn from it. Take a step back, analyze. At that point, it's okay to analyze.
Tony Robbins always said something like, when people fail, they ponder, but when they succeed, they party. So they sometimes learn a lot more from when things don't work out.
I always, with what happened in 2022, in August, I remember we had a pretty decent month in August, and then September was just boom, like about a third of the production, right? And
market shifted so quickly.
It did. It was really quick, and initially, I wasn't expecting that drop. You know, even though the market was shifting, I always believe it doesn't matter what the market does, I'm going to succeed, right? I mean, that's been my biggest mindset, shift that I've had since I started learning to be better. And so that September was rough. And I was like, okay, what do we got for October? Freaking worst. I was like, all right. So in September, you take a step back and go, it's time to analyze the operation, right? It's time to analyze the market, who are going to be my buyers, right? Because there's no refinances at this point.
Yeah,
who are going to be the buyers
right now?
And so, you start going like, okay, all the investors are at a stop. First-time home buyers are number one. So I remember just telling Jenny, I was like, you know what? I was like, this part of the show Friends came to mind in that moment because I thought of a word. And you watch Friends, right?
Oh,
I'm assuming.
I've
Please tell me you did.
Friends, but I don't know that I recall all of it.
So there's a part of it. There's a show where Ross buys a couch and the couch doesn't fit and through the stairs. And all he says through the entire time is pivot. He's telling, Rachel, and he's telling Chandler, like, to help him and pivot.
Yeah.
And man, that word just stuck with me through that tough time. It's just pivot, make adjustments, stay strong. And I would tell you that there were moments that you wake up and you are on the line of either depression or positivity.
Yeah.
And you choose
pick one.
Positivity, right? It's like, man, there's an end of the tunnel. I don't care if it's 6 months or it's a year. There's going to be the end of the tunnle with the light, and you're going to come out. And if you survive and you stay strong in this section, in this part of it, you're going to come out stronger. So you get to, again, life is an adventure that teaches you to be stronger and to be better, and take those hits almost with a giggle or a smile and go like, all right, this one was tough.
Yeah.
What's next? But that's the one thing for me. It's just be happy and be grateful for every moment that you're living, because everybody has their path. Don't compare yourself. Don't compare yourself to others. I like your philosophy
of life as an adventure, because it really is.
And don't compare. To me, the other thing is don't compare.
Yeah.
Because once you start comparing, you lose happiness, right? And that's, one of my kids was always looking, hey, this person. I was like, you have a different path, buddy. Like, enjoy yours.
Yeah.
And even if you seem like you're falling behind, I said, that's you learning things to be ahead one day in your world. You don't live the same world.
Yeah.
So that's my biggest.
Well, some great wisdom. Thank you. Yeah. If our audience, I know you're a busy man, so we'll let you get back to business. Yeah. What's a great way for our audience to connect with you?
It is, at Moxie's.
Okay, we'll find you in the back booth.
No, they can always reach out to me. My cell phone.
Okay, we'll put your
put my cell phone out there, and then my email address as well.
And then Lux Mortgage Team.
The Lux Mortgage at EFGTX.com.
Cool.
That's a way to connect, and have our offices in the Colony. We like to visit with people and and chat about what they want to accomplish.
Awesome.
So,
well, thank you again for your time today.
No, thank you. I really appreciate it.
Hope you have an awesome summer.
Same to you. We'll see you at Moxie's or the lake or D. Lincoln.
Okay.
Have you been thinking about moving to North Texas? Maybe you're looking in Plano, Dallas, Frisco, or the surrounding communities. Each year, our team helps dozens of families make the move to Texas. We'd love to help you begin your journey. Learn more on our website at hastingsre.com. That's HAISTINGSRE.com.